Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or check us out on Facebook and join our group at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that, fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that, fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that, fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Boom, 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 boom. It's time to stop the game. I think it's time to pay for everything you make me say. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. What's going on today? Why must it be this way? We're going nowhere and it's still not things that need to bow down. They think we're all the same and always we're to blame for shit I think is lame. It's time to stop the game. I think it's time to pay for everything you make me say. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. We are the ones breaking you down. We are the hope to drown out your sounds all across the world. You get what you found all across the world. You're breaking you down. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Y'all want a single say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. And if you tuned in to be cheered up, you should probably turn this off. Because for the next 90 minutes, we are probably just going to bitch. And rightfully so. Considering the performance today, a lot of issues throughout the season, let's be honest. The form in the league notwithstanding, I don't know. It's just depressing. But, well, we'll try and bring everything together. Yampi will be joining us as well as Dr. J from the Myrtle Beach Ball Deep CSC. Peter Lowell's best friend. We'll get some insight from him as well in terms of what has been the main cause of everything that has ailed us this season, including the 2-1 defeat to Aberdeen today at home. Absolutely just gut-wrenching. I'm sick over it. And, well, at least joining us, as always, from Perth Amboy, New Jersey, it's the Rev. Hello, Rev.
Hey, and I just want to put a disclaimer out there. I don't pick the music for the show.
Right. Thank you for pointing that out. That's good insight. Did you see the game today? What do you make of what took place?
I started to watch it, and I rolled back over, and I listened to it, and then I went back to sleep. I'm gonna say I wasn't the only one hungover this morning. It sounded and looked like everyone else on the field was. I don't know if they were riding on the, assumption that it was going to be, easy game.
Given to them?
Yeah. That it was just going to have, given their league form the last 47 games, oh my God, setting records. But
I think that had a lot to do with it. I think that, the feeling that they were invincible based on their prior record really set the tone for their attitude coming into this game. Without keeping in mind the fact that the last team who scored against this side was Aberdeen. I was there.
Because everyone knows the league is theirs. Right. Everyone's known that before the first ball was kicked this year.
But all you have to have is one good performance against Celtic in a cup tie, and
right.
And it can make your season.
Exactly. The cup is still fair game for anybody. And that's what everyone has our number on that.
Yeah,
everyone
exactly
knows
right.
We're still gonna not chuck it, but more or less not give it probably the full credit, and even that goes for the League Cup as well. Don't give it the full credit it deserves. So yeah, you especially the game played at Celtic Park, they're gonna be sitting back, resting on their laurels. And so all you got to do is, you just got to take it to them. And to be fair, I thought that's how the game was going to go myself for the most part, especially after Stokesy scored the first goal pretty much right away. I'm like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. Good, after what happened last week, good.
Right.
But no, that fell apart.
For me, it started with the starting 11. I can't get my head around why you would start Samaras at all. And obviously Anthony Stokes hasn't been on the best form as of late, but it goes even beyond that. When you play a midfield, essentially, I mean, if you want to call it that, if you want to call it this 4-4-1-1 or whatever you want to say, you can put the team sheet out however you want. It's how the players are going to play. So when you have a midfield consisting of James Forrest, Scott Brown, Stefan Johansson, and Georgios Samaras, essentially you're playing with a 4-2-4 because Samaras and Forrest are not going to track back. They're not going to help out in midfield, and they're not going to do anything to slow down the transition. And I mentioned this in last week's show. Stefan Johansson shows a lot of promise and a lot of upside, but the one thing that I think is a detractor for him and maybe a liability as compared to Ledley. If we're going to say that Johansson was Ledley's replacement, where Johansson is going to come up short is stopping that transition, slowing down the tempo of an opposing transition, especially when we're outnumbered in midfield, was really where Ledley shined, and it's really where nobody understands the value that Joe Ledley brought to this club because everybody's focused on where exactly the ball is. If Ledley doesn't score enough goals, then he's worthless. He's not on the pitch. He worked so hard off the ball to make other players be able to get into position and have the space with which to operate. And that's the type of thing that I don't think Stefan Johansson quite has in his toolbox just yet. Hopefully it's something that he can develop, but he certainly does not have it at this point. So what do we have? We have a 4-2-4, and credit to Aberdeen. I mean, their midfield was constantly peeling away from our players. And when you don't have a player like Samaras or Forrest tracking back to help out with that, it asks a lot of questions of our back line. You saw it repeatedly, giving away cheap corners, and being outnumbered on the break constantly because listen, a lot is being made on the message boards and Facebook and Twitter and all that about, Peter Lawwell and the transfer window. And yes, it was both transfer windows this season have been a complete and utter disgrace, a complete shambles. But the loss of today's game rests solely and squarely on Neil Lennon for putting out that side in that formation. And the comment was made pretty frequently that we lacked any sort of shape. And the explanation is simple. You can't have any sort of shape when the players that are on the park are not suited for A, the opponent that we're going up against, and B, where we're putting them on the pitch. James Forrest, for some reason, has this inclination to drift more centrally to play that Chris Commons role, in spite of the fact that Chris Commons is on the park. James Forrest wants to drift centrally and try and link up the midfield to the attack over and over again, giving the ball away cheaply. He gets surrounded by 2-3 players who are more hungry. And this is the other thing. When we are clearly getting overrun in the middle of the park, that fuels Aberdeen. That raises their spirits. That raises their morale, and it drops ours. And it's a vicious cycle. And we could talk about the lack of effort from the players and, the dropping of heads and so on and so forth. And it clearly was there. But there is a simple explanation for this. And it's our tactics were completely wrong. The players knew it. The players, even if they weren't present to it, they were experiencing it firsthand, and nothing was done about it. In the second half, it was clear that this formation, that this lineup wasn't working, so Neil Lennon makes a series of like-for-like adjustments. We had the opportunity to stop the momentum that Aberdeen had built up by bringing on another midfielder. And the other question is, why do we only have one midfielder and essentially the rest forwards, the rest attacking players on the bench? We don't have any defenders on the bench. We have one midfielder that we can bring on. So Neil Lennon set himself up in a position where he didn't have much tactical flexibility. Now, if he brings on Bitan, who was the only midfielder on the bench, and stabilizes things a bit, so 55th minute, he brings on Bitan for Samaras. Samaras obviously wasn't working. And why you would play him, to start him, is absolutely mind-blowing. It's beyond me. I have absolutely no idea why you would think that this was going to work. None. I'm at a complete and utter loss. Other than maybe the fact that he scored the winning goal in the last second of last season's game against Aberdeen. But it's a far cry from last season, as we've seen given the form of Georgios Samaras throughout this entire season. And it's clear that he doesn't want to play for Celtic anymore. It's clear that he's away in the summer. But we start him. And it's becoming beyond defendable to try and explain Neil Lennon's thinking and persisting with him. But let's lay out a hypothetical. If we take off Samaras, bring on Bitan, we're a goal down, right? Okay, so you're bringing on a midfielder, and we need goals. But by doing that, we can maintain a bit more stability in the middle of the park, take some of the sting away from Aberdeen's momentum, maintain some possession, and start to regroup, start to build. Start to facilitate that build-up. Once again, Neil Lennon waits till far too late in the game to make any sort of adjustments, any sort of substitution. And by that point, we're really chasing the game. So we bring on Bitan, we stabilize things, then we can start swapping out strikers. But when you make like-for-like substitutions and you just start swapping in strikers, you're setting the striker that's coming in, substituting for the player coming off. You're putting them in the same shitty situation that the previous striker was in the first place. So for me, I've been a defender of Neil Lennon in the past. I've given him the benefit of the doubt, and I've blamed the board. Today was a winnable game, considering the players that we had at our disposal. We could and should have won this game, and we didn't, and it comes down to the team selection to begin with and the complete and utter lack of tactical ability and awareness to make adjustments and to read what essentially was going on with the game. And you hear Neil Lennon's comments after the game, and he talks about, well, the players were a bit flat. Of course they were. They were getting overrun. And then you try and slide Samaras. He's typically on the left-hand side. You try and slide him into more of a central position. And we've seen. Listen, I'm not even going to describe what happened. We've talked about this over and over again. Chris Commons coming down with any sort of tempo, and you see Samaras standing just outside the box with his back to goal, flat-footed on his heels. Of course he's going to get dispossessed.
I'd even go and throw out, after we piled up, yellow card after yellow card, sub off, Adam Matthews maybe, who, has a yellow card now, and, throw in a second attacker, and replace the defender. Go to, 3-5-2, and go back and, like I said, like what you were saying, kind of stabilize with the midfield there. That's kind of a little strategy like I was thinking. That's better than not doing anything.
It's just it's really upsetting because it was self-inflicted, and it comes down to the manager. The manager needs to take responsibility and say, I got it wrong from a tactical perspective, and learn from it and push on. We essentially don't have any meaningful football left until July. So that's just, it's just gutting. It's just like, what do we have to look forward to now, Rev? Maybe maximizing the point total.
I was going to say, don't forget St. Johnson next week. Get your tickets now.
But, I don't know. We're going to try and get Dr. J on here. Dr. J. Dr. J.
What's going on?
I'm trying to talk myself off the ledge here, and I'm about to swan dive into the driveway. Yeah, we got the Rev back now too. Dr. J, what are your thoughts on the game today? I'm just sort of pointing out. Actually, I'm getting some feedback. Dr. J, can you turn down your receiver just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm on the phone, so I turned off the radio. So how's that? Is that better?
Okay, yeah, I think I was getting the feedback from the Rev. We might be having some technical difficulties with the Rev. We'll try and get him back here in a second.
I'm right here.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Never mind.
Never mind.
I just want to point out also that the Rev didn't pick out the music for the opening of the show. He's really concerned about that. I was just pointing out, the fact that I've been quick to be critical of your best friend Peter Lawwell, and the game today, it was winnable, considering the players that we had and considering the form that we've been in recently, and yet we saw a much different tactical layout in this game. Why change? Why go away from a lot of the things that made us successful throughout these past several weeks and go with essentially a 4-2-4? Just an attacking. It takes us back to the Mowbray era, where we have four forwards essentially nothing in the midfield, and our heads drop because opposing midfields that are just packed run away from us and cause our backline all sorts of problems. And it's like and then by Neil Lennon bringing on more strikers to replace strikers, it was like trying to put out a grease fire by dumping water on it. It just made it worse. What were your thoughts?
Can I need like an hour to answer all that.
Okay, well just condense it as much as you can.
I woke up, I saw the feed on who was playing, and I had to run over to Verizon to get a new phone because when I dropped my phone, it broke. I can't answer any questions. I don't know what he was thinking. And the thing that kills me is, and I know, we have our running joke about me being the team capitalist here and the Peter Lawwell's drinking buddy. I can't hang this one on him. I can't.
No, I agree.
If we go to Aberdeen and win 3-0, and then we can't win at home, I don't give a shit if it's a cup game or not. There's no reason why.
What's right is right. Listen, I call it how I see it, and it's not personal against Peter Lawwell, whatever. And listen, for all of Peter Lawwell's faults, the result from today doesn't come down to our transfer business or what Peter Lawwell has or has not done.
Nope.
It comes down to the manager, essentially. The manager put the players in a really shitty position to be successful. They weren't successful. They were frustrated. You could see it. Their morale dropped. And as our morale dropped, the Aberdeen players, it had an adverse effect there. Their spirits left, and they said, right, we got this game. If we can just keep...
Oh, yeah, they came into strength.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think what we saw last week versus this week is totally, we did not boss the midfield. We did not boss the midfield at all, and the whole entire time, I don't know if it's match fitness or match sharpness, but Matthews did not take that right wing.
Well, he wasn't fit.
No,
it was clear. It was clear he wasn't fit. So why? Listen, Darnell Fisher. We've pointed out that he's shown his youth and a bit of inexperience at times, but he's been serviceable. I'd much rather have a fully fit and hungry Darnell Fisher out there than a sort of half-empty Adam Matthews. Put players in a position where they can be successful.
Yeah, maybe Lenny felt that if he left Matthews in as a more serviceable / dependable defender, that would allow Jamesy to wander more to the midfield. The problem is that just clogs up the midfield and that takes away our width. And when that happens, we become very predictable. Yeah. Very, very predictable. Just right down the middle, and that just allows them to go down that left side. And even then, the second goal they scored was the man alone on the back post after a neat little handball that Willie forgot to call. Yeah. So he's back there by himself. There's no one there. And he just slots it past Frazier. What are you going to do? If no one's there, you expect the guy to score.
And one point that I made last week, and I prefaced this at the time with, it was only one game or a couple of games that we had seen Johansson so far, but the one shortcoming that I thought maybe in his game was that ability to slow down the opposition, when they're in transition, slow down that tempo, maybe grab a man and give him some hassle. Fair credit to Johansson. He works his tail off, but he just doesn't have that bit of a physical element to be able to to put a shoulder charge in or to harry a player to break off their rhythm. And quite often we found today Scott Brown had probably one of his worst games that I've seen in quite some time from him. Quite often Scott Brown was nowhere to be found in those types of situations. We were completely overrun.
No, well, listen, Ledley is 5-6 years older than Johansson. He's more mature, and they're not, like we said last week, they're not a like for like yet. So when you swap that out, it may have been that Jamesy was not the man. I think you're right about Baton coming on or being in there at least at halftime. Listen, it's not like Lenny's afraid to make substitutions at halftime. Last time Baton was the
Rarely,
sacrificial lamb.
It's rare that he makes substitutions at halftime. And you're right. And this is something that I wanted to pick up on. I'm glad that you brought this up. It seems as though Baton has been subbed off at halftime in a couple of situations when he fell short. So if Neil Lennon doesn't rate him or there's some other issue, then why put him on the bench? If you're hesitant to even bring him on, then why put him on the bench? Why even have him there?
I'll give you that one. My point is not that. My point is that he made that substitution at halftime, brought Pookie on, and was a game changer. You score in the 8th minute, and then the rest of the match is either a stalemate or the field is tilting towards Frazier, and nothing until 15 minutes into the second half.
Far too often.
I don't know what happened.
Far too often. Neil Lennon waits far too long to bring on substitutes. This is the pattern.
That brings me back, like I said earlier in the chat room. That brings me back like I was watching in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Sammy's ineffective. He stands there and just watches the entire game. And to me, we still have to remember in coaching years / dog years, Lenny is still learning.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I can't deal with this anymore. I can't.
I know.
He's not. He's not. He's been the manager for going on 4 years now. It's time. It's at some point he has to learn from these mistakes, and these mistakes are repetitive, and it's getting to the point where he's being stubborn about it. He's not being flexible about it. And it was displayed today in his lack of ability to say, right, you know what, I got it wrong from the start. Let me change it up. You know, it was like he just had to persist with what he put out there, almost in a self-serving manner.
Yes, almost like
listen,
I know I can't be wrong
He's
here.
not a rookie manager anymore. Okay, he's managed through the Europa League, the Champions League, and too often in domestic cup competitions he's fallen short, and it's been self-inflicted. I can listen. I can hold my hands up and say, you know what, we were beat today. You know, we made a good effort of it. We weren't the better team, but what I can't put up with is a lack of effort from the players. You know, their heads dropping, and a lot of that, as I mentioned, had to do with the tactical ineptitude, and that's another thing that I can't accept. Tactical ineptitude and just poor choice of the starting 11. It's unacceptable.
But my point is, I'm with you. But my point is that it takes. I will give you. Let's put it this way. I'm willing to bet that on the bench between Danny McGrain and everyone else that's over there, that there's got to be a couple people chirping in his ear to say, "Hey, you think this is working?"
You would hope so.
I would hope so. You know, and I think Johan probably has that ability. I'm sure Danny has the ability to say, "Listen, brother, I can tell you what the hell's going on here." The issue is whether or not, even to some extent, that you could be grown up to be able to take enough of some adult criticism. And, you know, that's a different question other than managing. And that's a personality thing. And, you know, and for him to be able to, I'm telling you, I really believe it takes a lot to be able to step aside and do that. Now, should he be able to by now? You'd hope so. Has he? The answer is no. That's why I'm saying this. But then again, maybe that's his flaw. Maybe that's his kryptonite.
Rev, what do you make of let's talk about Neil Lennon, and you know, he's done some fantastic things. Let's not kid ourselves. He took a team that was on the balls of its ass and turned it into a Champions League contender into the last 16 last season, beating Barcelona, and the spine was completely ripped out of this side and wasn't replaced. You know, with that being said, and like I pointed out, you know, this doesn't come down to. I think we had the personnel and the players to be able to get a result out of this game. Certainly, he doesn't have the resources that he once had, but this was just blatant. And even when he did have the players at his disposal in these domestic cup ties, he fell short.
I don't get why there was a change in formation or, you know, the lineup at all from last week, which has been the same for, you know, how many weeks, you know, barring a player here or there. I don't get why. I mean, you know, we brought up before, you know, Sammy's goal last time against Aberdeen. Like, that's really all you can think of, because I can't think of any reason why he would even be considered to be on the bench. You know, it's a real head scratcher, and I don't even know what to say because it doesn't make sense, you know?
Joining us now is Brendan Tien. Brendan, thanks so much for calling in, and if you're here to vent, you've come to the right place.
Well, what a bag of shit that was today.
I mean, what do you make of? I mean, it was so unexpected considering the recent form and you know, the amount of confidence that we were playing with. But I sent out a couple of tweets with when the starting 11 was released, but I just had such a bad feeling about it. We were so exposed.
Well, first of all, what Samra's doing with the shirts on, he's not committed to the club. Why is he even on the bench, never mind starting? And you've paid nearly £1 million for Griffiths, and he's on the bench. I don't get it. I mean, I've been a big fan of Lenny's, but lately, I don't get it. His cup record is absolutely shocking. If you take into the Ross County game when he first took over, that's 9 attempts in cup football, and we've won 2 Scottish Cups. That's poor. It seems to me for a big one-off game, he struggles to get the players up for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, over a season, because of the quality we've got on our side and our squad, we're always going to pull away over a season. But these one-off matches, even when we had Hooper, Wanyama, we lost game we should be losing. Why is that? There's something missing somewhere that I'm not getting.
And the other thing that we touched on and that I don't understand was, why was there such a change in the formation and the tactics? Why do you go out with essentially 4 forwards going up against an Aberdeen side, which, let's be honest, I mean, they're no mugs. I mean, they're currently second in the SPFL. They're hungry. They've had several very good results as of late. Obviously, Mulgrew wasn't available today. I think that was a huge miss. But, you have options there. You have options for the middle of the park, including Beaton. And, I mean, I'm just struggling to see when it's so obvious that our midfield is undermanned that you wouldn't bring Beaton on. I mean, he just must not even rate him at all.
Why can't he see what most Celtic fans see? Everybody in Twitter, everybody on the Facebook, they can't all be wrong, can they? I mean, you've got 2 players who were deemed not good enough for Celtic, dominated the midfield today. It was quite embarrassing at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Brownie is more interested in trying to look better against young Pollitt than actually do anything in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think...
Too much there's too much... You've seen a young pretender there getting the better of him, he didn't like it. And at the end of the day, the young lad came off better because he got the fucking winning goal. I think there's an attitude today where we just turned up thinking we had to do the bare minimum to get through, and it's absolutely fucking disgraceful, excuse my French. We should be on our second double, if not our second treble. The season for me now is, well, it's a dead season because we're always going to win the league. Young lads who we possibly could put into the team now because there's only some league games left. They've been put out on loan. A Tajik, young lad down at Notts County. So, at the moment, I don't know where we're going with this side. I mean, we're just sort of bobbing in the waves, aren't we? We're not going anywhere.
Well, and the other thing that's troubling for me looking ahead is, and the bigger picture is, there doesn't seem to be any sort of plan in place, any sort of wider perspective. Like, right, we're going to bring the younger players through. This player is going to succeed. That okay, Ledley's away, so we're going to have Henderson, step up and sort of succeed him, and we're going to bleed him in and get him more and more experience. We go out and we get Johansson, and that sort of impedes his progress. You mentioned we brought in Griffiths when we had a Tadic here, so now we have another striker to put on the bench who clearly. He had his debut today, but I don't think anybody's going to stand up and say, right, Lee Griffiths is going to make Gerard Piqué shit his pants or Pepe shit his pants. I mean, if that's our aspiration to be a European.
Why did Fisher not play, Graham? Why was Fisher dropped to the bench? Yeah, he's had a couple of not fantastic games the last 2 games, but overall he's done well for us.
He's been serviceable.
Why have you been dropped down to the bench and we've got Matthews, who obviously is a very good player already? He's not played for 4 or 5 games. He's not fit. A couple of passes today with 10 yards away. He's giving it to Aberdeen players. There's something not right there. Well, if I'm a player in that squad, I'm thinking, what the fuck do I need to do against?
Yeah, and you touched on the element of just feeling like you need to turn up and you'll get the result. Almost like it'll be handed to you. How many times has this happened under Neil Lennon's tenure? I mean, we just had this happen in the League Cup against Morton. You'd think that the lessons would be learned of this, to up the urgency with it, and clearly it's not happening.
McInnes has got an Aberdeen side that are basically workmanlike, they're well organised. He had a game plan, he stuck to it, and we didn't have anything to beat that game plan. They went ahead 5 minutes into the second half. We had a good 40 minutes to turn that game around, if not get a draw, win it. And we couldn't break them down. There was you got the feeling watching it that it was never going to happen.
No, exactly.
So McInnes is that tactic. Lenny's not. He's not a rookie. He's 4 years in the job.
Exactly. I agree completely. We got. I'm not on this sort of mindset that it's his first job and he's still just learning. You know what? Enough. It's time. It's time to learn, to take the lessons that you've learned in the past and apply them, and put your ego to one side and say, right, I got this wrong, and then make the adjustments. And if that means, listen, you're 2-1 down, it's not the end of the world. Worst case scenario, you calm the game down, you nick a goal, at some point, and we get them on the replay. But instead, he chases the game with the same ineffective tactics that he was using. It's like throwing water on a grease fire.
We had 40 minutes to turn that game round.
And it was 15 minutes until we actually saw a substitute after that.
We could all see we weren't winning in midfield. So he should have made his change early. He should have brought Beaton in, another midfield player, reshape the side, and then go again. But no, I think the arrogance of it was, we'll turn this around because we scored 2 late goals against Aberdeen last November.
Right.
They had a game plan, Graham, and they stuck to it, and we weren't good enough to break them down. And they deserved that win today.
Yeah, they
and
did.
It's embarrassing for us that a team of journeymen can come to Celtic Park and knock us out of the Scottish Cup.
Well said.
I agree 100% with that. And, listen, we're getting a lot of comments, all over the place about, it's time for Neil Lennon to go and this, that, and the other. I'm not so sure about that. And what generally leads me to be hesitant to call for his sacking is, who would we replace him with? Who would we bring in straight away and say, right, this is our man, and this is our plan going ahead and into the future? Who's going to want to work under the conditions that Neil Lennon? And I'm not talking about the abuse that he gets. I mean, that's horrific in and of its own right. But I'm talking about having to deal with the type of board restrictions, and specifically Peter Lawwell. To have so much in terms of expectations being thrust upon you and so little in terms of support financially. Who's going to do that?
Exactly.
I don't think anybody's going to come, Graham. I don't think anybody's going to come for that. Who would want it?
You hear names being bandied about. Owen Coyle. I mean, if we brought Owen Coyle in, it would be. It would be.
Yeah, he had his chance. He knocked his back. He should never be near the door. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, I agree completely with that sentiment. I think that Dermot Desmond has a lot of time for Owen Coyle, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's just say that I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he were brought in. I think that Dermot Desmond, on the flip side, looks at Owen Coyle as the one that got away, and maybe this time he'll do whatever he needs to do just to get him over. But I think. I don't have a lot of time for Owen Coyle. I'm sorry. I just don't rate him as a manager, and I think that.
What's your one as a manager? One promotion, but one side.
Yeah. Yeah.
What make, because he's a Celtic fan, his family are Celtic fans, that makes him qualified to manage Glasgow Celtic? I don't think so. I'm not calling for Lenny's head.
I'm not either.
No, I think there's still probably a year, maybe 18 months left in him at Celtic. And if he goes, I want him to go under his own steam. I don't want him to be pushed out by results, pushed out by fans. He'll go for some reason when it's cup games. Hello?
Yeah, I don't. You know what? Somebody on the line.
You hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Somebody on the line just. Somebody's Skype line just went tits up. Yeah, we're good. No, I listen. I completely agree. I don't think that the answer at the moment is sacking Neil Lennon. And I'm with you where I don't want him to be forced out, because of results or whatever the case is. But at some point he does need to step up and start taking some ownership. And I just don't see it. The comments after the games, talking about. Brilliant performances, and we had our opportunities, and the comment like James Forrest gave us a spark today. What is he watching?
Well, I didn't see any interviews, Graham, because I turned everything off straight away because I knew all the bullshit was going to come out. I thought I'm not going to listen because it's the same thing, isn't it? Every time we get a bad result, the same bullshit comes out.
It is.
So I don't want to listen to any of the interviews. I thought I'll wait till your show starts because no doubt, obviously, you're going to tell it how it is like you normally do. No bullshit.
Amen to that, brother. Listen, now I'm getting some feedback.
Well, I'm going to sign off, Graham. I've got a little bit off my chest.
Listen, let me ask you one quick question before we let you go. Peter Lawwell came out and made a statement actually just yesterday. The financial results were released this week, and there was much rejoicing at that. He made a statement saying that we could potentially buy an £8 million player in the summertime. I just don't understand the context of why he would release a statement like that. Considering in my opinion, I don't think that it's an £8 million player that we're missing. I don't think that, like, if we went out and bought an £8 million player, a striker or a creative player tomorrow, that's going to be the cure of all of our ailment. I think that there are opportunities to buy maybe £3 to £5 million players, who've demonstrated success at other continental leagues, maybe not on the top flight, but, you look at the Austrian league, you look at the Dutch league. I mean, there's so much quality there, in that £4 million range that, seems to be just out of our sort of transfer cap. I mean, it just reeks of Peter Lawwell trying to pander to the supporters, to keep people in the seats for the rest of the season and then renew their season books. I don't understand why he would come out and say something like that, especially given the fact that we're coming out of a transfer window where we were limited to a £1 million striker that we brought in, where clearly that's our biggest glaring weakness.
That's just bullshit again by Peter Lawwell, isn't it? At the end of the day, the way Celtic are financially, Peter Lawwell's been a success in his job. But I don't support Celtic to look at a balance sheet.
Exactly.
I don't support Celtic because Peter Lawwell's there. I support Celtic because of what's on the pitch.
Exactly.
Celtic would never sign an £8 million player for the Scottish League.
Yeah,
he said himself he budgets for the Europa League, the group stage Europa League. That tells me where the ambition lies.
Exactly, and it's not good enough.
If we get 2 seasons out of 4 in the Champions League and we sell a Hooper, a Wanyama, a Van Dijk, the PLC will be happy with that. But you've only got to look at the top tier today at Celtic Park, completely empty, for a team second in the league, to see how much it's turned the fans off. That should have been 50,000 there today for that game. 1v2. It wasn't. It was 35,000 there.
And it sounded like an Aberdeen home game.
Correct. The Armstrong is. I mean, don't even start them in the Green Brigade, because the way they've been treated is absolute disgrace. Well, I'm going to sign off at that because I'm getting even more annoyed now.
Cheers, pal. Keep your head up, all right? Thanks for calling. Brendan getting in touch, and you can tell he's as frustrated as we are with this. Rev, some good points there.
Definitely. I would say that's one of the best calls we've had in a while.
And this overriding theme of what is the overall plan for the club at the moment? There is no mission statement here. There is no, okay, we're gonna have our youth players come in, and where applicable, we can slide them into the team. There's it's just sort of like willy-nilly, like, that player's available, we'll just get them. And without any regard to our youth side, to the players that we currently have, the fact that for whatever reason we couldn't get rid of Samaras in January, that's mind-blowing to me. We're now joined by Snake Plissken, all the way from Slovakia. Snake, thanks very much for calling in. Long time since we spoke to you, pal. Shame that we couldn't be talking on a more positive, enthusiastic day.
Yeah, and it's my birthday tomorrow, so thanks a fucking bunch, Celtic.
Well, happy birthday, all the same, pal. Go ahead. I mean, this is we're just venting here and just throwing our thoughts out after what was. It was a gutting result, but what is even more depressing about it is the way that it went about. It was just torture to watch at times.
It was horrific. We started very well, and I thought, good, we're going to do a good game today, and then it just fell apart. The players looked uninterested for the minutes. Brown fouled Hayes and got a yellow card. Celtic looked like a totally different team, and this has happened far, far too often since Neil Lennon's been the manager, and it's becoming an utter embarrassment. It's happening far too frequently, and there's got to be reasons for this. We know we've got a better team than everybody else in the country.
Yep. But
any one given day, the players are not turning up on these one-off occasions when it matters. I don't give a shit about 11 or 10 or how many bloody clean sheets in a row. I don't give a shit about fucking going through a league season against nothing, unbeaten. I want cups and I want trophies in the cabinet, and I want good days out for the supporters. The stadium that's like a bloody morgue because it's half empty, if even half empty, and we're getting this crap now about £8 million. No, it's 800 grand players. Let's be quite honest about this. That's the market we're operating in. And we're getting this nonsense fed to us constantly.
It's insulting. It is.
I'm
It's
disgusted.
Exactly. And I think that's the overwhelming sentiment at the moment. It's insulting for Peter Lawwell to come out and say, right, well, we couldn't spend any more than $1 million on a striker this past window, but we'll pay $8 million in the summer. Well, why would you wait until the summer then? As if the Scottish Cup was just going to be handed to us. We're playing against Aberdeen. And obviously our cup form, as you pointed out, far too often in these cup ties, including the League Cup. I mean, we couldn't show up against Morton. Now I think that the key component to this, you can point to our league form and the fact that we've had a brilliant run of results and the way that we've played and so on. But when you look at the issue of motivation, a lot of these teams come to Celtic Park or they see Celtic turn up with a 14, 18, 21-point lead, and they think, right, fuck it. We're not going to win the league. Most teams that we're playing against are jostling to try and get into the top 6 after the split. And really what they have left to play for is the cup. So when these teams turn up in league competition to play against us, it's a completely different level of motivation for them. And it's completely the opposite for us for some reason. We don't... And the thing that was debilitating, and I pointed this out earlier, was that we came out in... I don't understand why Georgios Samaras started today, considering it's quite clear to everybody except for Neil Lennon that he has no future at Celtic. He comes out, our midfield gets overrun, and yet he persists with Samaras for far too long, and when he does decide to make a substitution, he does it like for like. And it even made the problem worse, because from there we don't have players that are going to drop back and be able to slow down all of the momentum that Aberdeen had built up and be able to keep the ball on the ground and build from the back and maintain possession. We compounded the problem by chasing the game, and we became desperate. I mean, by the 83rd minute, I'm thinking to myself, this is like watching Mowbray.
Well, I've actually gone through a bit of a list in my head here for the season. Now just have a think about this for a second. Scraped through qualifiers against the Swedish champions, within a hair's breadth of going out against Karagandhi. Worst ever performance in the Champions League. Biggest thrashing we've ever had in Europe. Out to Morton. Now out of the Scottish Cup, and we've had the things with the Green Brigade, the carry on in Amsterdam, and the poor folk that are having terrible times over that. We've had a support practically at war with each other all throughout the season, on Twitter and elsewhere. Is this a good season?
And all of the things that you've pointed out, it's like everything that this board could have done wrong this season to fuck things up. They basically did, aside from, but they released these financial results as if, look at how wonderful everything is. Our financial results are so good. And I think that more and more people are starting to wake up to the fact that there is no possible chance that we could ever wind up like the now dead Rangers or Sevco. It's a completely different situation. They've rode that logic for far too long to justify their spendthrift ways. And Peter Lowell pointed out, he said, we look for players with value. Well, I'm sorry, but Peter, value doesn't equal cheap. It doesn't mean inexpensive. Value entails what you are actually getting for the money that you're spending. Mohamed Bangura was awful value. You paid £2 million for a player that is worthless. You paid £2 million for Pookie, who can't even get on the park today. Worthless. You pay all sorts of money thinking that you're getting value because you're not having to pay a lot, and hopefully these players come through and really do well. But when they don't, we can't be surprised. Pookie scored 7 goals last season. Did you think he was going to replace... Neil Lennon said he was going to replace Hooper. Hooper scores 20-plus goals a season, sometimes 30. We got $5 million for him, and you spend less than half that on a player, and you say that he's going to replace him? That's not value. He doesn't understand the concept of value. Value is spending money and getting the type of performance or the type of player that would exceed the amount of money that you paid for them. Not getting a player on the cheap and hoping. And that's essentially what our transfer policy is. And in addition to that, Neil Lennon had a couple of salient points during the transfer window, and I paid a lot of attention to some of his quotes. And he said, listen, and to a large degree, I feel for him. He said, I don't have the liberty when he was asked, what's your sort of plan, long-term vision? And he said, I don't have the liberty of having that sort of vision or that sort of long-term plan because I need results right now. That's what I'm judged on. Tomorrow's result could give me the sack. The board and upwards from that perspective, they can make these 5-year plans, but I have to get results. So you have that in essence is the disconnect between the board and the football aspect. Aside from the fact that you have a man, Peter Lowell, who's not a football man, making these transfer decisions, you have a manager that has a sense of urgency, like he needs to get as much as he possibly can, probably almost to a panic state. And you have this board that's, it's a 5-year thing, and, we'll bring these players on, and then we'll sell them for all this money, and it's based off of hope. There needs to be more synergy between the manager and the board. And another thing, and Rev, you can speak to this as well because you were there. Another thing that I found interesting, when Willie McNabb, the youth team coach from Celtic, was over in Philadelphia a couple of weeks when we had our convention in Philadelphia. And I asked him, I said, how much input and how much involvement does Neil Lennon have with the youth team in terms of injecting the tactics and the way that Celtic wants to play there? And how much connection is there between the first team and how the youth team plays? And, Willie McNabb, to his credit, he gave us a good answer, but it wasn't the sort of answer that would lead me to believe that there is a hand-in-glove relationship like you see at the Ajaxes of the world, like the Barcelonas of the world, where they play a certain way in the youth team, and it's the same as what you see at the big team. And that's concerning to me. There just doesn't seem to be any sort of strategy. It's just buying players and hoping.
No,
right.
sorry. Yeah, definitely. Why have, a prolific youth system, and really try and, they put out a tweet today from the Celtic coach Twitter account that they just made a partnership with, a new club in New Jersey, which is pretty, kind of a big deal, at least locally, and another one in Boston and stuff. And why are they going to make these partnerships, and grow the youth system when the youth players aren't going to get a look, and it's going to be the, £2 million players that really aren't going to do anything, or even hypothetically, if we do get, this one £8 million player in the summer, why, it doesn't make sense. Why are you going to do, both of those strategies when they don't mesh with each other? There's no synergy there.
Well, and I just think that it speaks to the overall dynamic that's going on essentially at the club. Neil Lennon is in a position where week to week he needs to get results, and he got it completely wrong today, and we can criticize him, and rightfully so, based on that. But in terms of how the club is being run, it's not a well-oiled machine. There's all sorts of sort of independent entities operating separate from each other. And that includes the transfer policy. And we spoke to Brendan about this just before your call, Snake, where we have Tony Watt, who's at the moment running riot in the Belgian league, and I'm delighted for him, and I'm delighted by that fact. It seemed as though he got off to a rocky start there, but it seems as though he's growing. He's taking his football more seriously. He's enjoying his football, and long may that last. And hopefully, whatever disconnect there was between Neil Lennon and Tony Watt can be buried, because I think that he can be a huge asset for us next season. That's exactly the player that we could really use right now. But in addition to that, we have a Tadic who, in my opinion, I'd much prefer not spending £1 million. I mean, if we need to be spendthrift, why throw £1 million at a player that I don't think provides that much of an upgrade over a Tadic? And a Tadic, I think, in the long term, has much more upside than a Lee Griffiths. There's just so many questions. And to your point, Snake, it's like every decision that's been made by this board, it's I mean, aside from the balance sheet, he's like King Midas in reverse. Like everything he fucking touches turns to shit. You know, the relationship with the supporters, and we saw the Celtic Trust meeting this past week, and how much emotion there is amongst the support in terms of how we as the support are being treated by the board and how little support we're getting from the board, you know, with regard to this offensive behavior bill. And you can rationalize all you want the fact that there's such low turnout at the game and there's such shit atmosphere. But at its base, we didn't have this issue prior to December when all this, you know, Green Brigade vitriol started coming out and the lies. I mean, let's call them what they are. They're lies.
It's thoroughly depressing, the entire thing. For me, there's a lot we can talk about the board, but I think with your point about the club, from youth team into first team, this actually dismays me that our development of players is so stunted. It doesn't go anywhere far too often. You're right, Baradin Atajic should have been staying and playing. What is he going to learn playing for a club like Shrewsbury? In my opinion, I don't see that. Tony Watt's doing fine in Belgium. You remember the game when we went up to Inverness? It was before a Champions League game, and we played. It was Philippe Tvarzik and Tony Watt played in this team, and I think Chalmers was playing as well.
Yeah.
3 or 4 young players in the team. Yep. What happened since then? It just doesn't go anywhere. And for me, Neil Lennon has to take a lot of the blame in this. He has had the opportunity of a lifetime at Celtic to bring through as many young players and save us the money when you're talking about spending money. Instead, he's put people out on loan. He's put people in daft tournaments in Turkey. And what is the development plan here? These guys are probably going to all go by the wayside or end up playing at Dundee or St Mirren.
Right.
And I just don't see the point to this. We look at other clubs in the continent and they bring through their players, and moreover, they trust their players to go into their first team to actually make an impact in their first team, whether in a European match or in a domestic match. And let's face it, domestically, we have no credible opponents in a league season at this moment in time.
Yeah.
This was a gigantic chance to bring through a young Celtic team. Not in its entirety. Of course, you need to sign players and you need to bring people through. But I get news for some people. The team that go to this last 16 of the Champions League is gone. It is utterly dismantled.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's no coming back. Because you'll never replicate Wanyama for the price we paid for him.
No.
You're never going to get another Joel Edley in that team. And Gary Hooper's goals ain't cheap. But we go for the cheap every single time. And I'm not saying £8 million. That's what Peter Lawwell said.
Right.
Well, it cost £8 million for Jordan Rhodes to go to Blackburn all those years ago. He was a goal scorer. There was a lot of talk about Celtic being interested in him at that time. Where's the £8 million for him? I don't believe this. I just don't believe it. The people who are running the club seem to have this typical opinion. Folk will turn up and that'll be it.
Exactly.
Well, the crowds are falling through the floor. But when were Celtic shutting that stand at the top for any match since the stadium was rebuilt? This is a new thing.
Yeah.
And it's not entirely because of the financial situation people are in. People are not turning up, probably because it's on TV. Probably because half the time the football's dull as ditch water and nobody wants to see the same thing over and over again. And then when you hear Neil Lennon come out at the end of the game with stuff about James Forrest, I am really angry with Neil Lennon right now. Because I remember that game against Karagandhi when Forrest scored the winner, and he came out and launched into a big tirade. I can't understand why people don't like him, because half the time he never does anything. He makes the wrong decisions, and you keep putting him in the team. I remember the game at Ajax. He got a break of the ball. He's got two men. He's got a man square. He runs directly into his opposing player. This is not a player learning. And this is what confounds me about Neil Lennon at times.
And he persists. You're exactly right. I mean, Samaras, the knock on him, unless we have in the Champions League games. Now, to clarify, the way that he was playing Samaras in these Champions League games was due to the fact that we didn't have Gary Hooper and we didn't have an out-and-out center forward playing. So Samaras had to take on that role. Where Samaras was effective in the past in the Champions League was down to two things. Number one, he had Victor Wanyama in the middle of the park that really played the position of two players. I mean, he could clean up messes on behalf of 2 to 3 players, and that gave us a lot of freedom, to get forward and to play more at a higher number of attacking players. If we had a player like Wanyama in the side today, we wouldn't have had so much of an issue with our midfield getting overrun. But we don't have Wanyama in the side. The second thing is playing in the Champions League, playing down the left-hand side, getting those long diagonals down the flank, balls for him to run onto, stretching out opposing defenses. That's really where his utility is. If you start playing him centrally, as you pointed out, Neil Lennon persists in doing, and then we're surprised at the outcome. I mean, it's maddening. And I was optimistic and hopeful that we wouldn't see this type of situation where Neil Lennon would put Georgios Samaras out there and persist with him. And I was incorrect with that. Apparently this love-in that he has with Samaras is it's enough for him to go down with the ship, essentially.
Well, the thing is, we've got to start asking ourselves questions. Where are we going from here? Essentially, our season is more or less finished today.
Exactly.
We're going to have the league title, and I bet you Celtic Park's full to see a trophy. But other than that, what are people turning up to watch? The problem is we don't seem to have players who excite the fans anymore. I don't think, my own personal opinion. We've seen the mistakes or the players who haven't come good. And yet the team play the same way every week. Essentially the same players play every week. And there's nothing really gripping at the moment about watching Celtic. And that's taken aside all the off-the-field issues. And I'm beginning to wonder, really, has Neil Lennon's time at Celtic come and gone? What more can he do from here?
Well, and
I think it's a question that should be asked.
And if we're looking at, first off, I think your point is exactly spot on with regard to what is left for the rest of the season. I mean, we have the league wrapped up. We have no meaningful football, let's be honest, until July. The one thing that I would think would be interesting, captivating for us as a support would be seeing the development of some of these young players, the Darnell Fishers, the Liam Hendersons, the young players are falling by the wayside by the day, with all these loan deals. But
how about this? Why don't they put Big Free Johnson up front and play him with Lee Griffiths?
Exactly.
Let's try that.
Let's experiment, with some of these players that, maybe haven't gotten a look. Amito Balde. I mean, every time Balde comes in as a substitute, I think there's a player in there, and he just hasn't gotten an opportunity. Let's give him a run of games now, and let's get.
He played with more heart when he came on than the people who'd been up front for the majority of the game. Now he's not the technically best player in the world, but he's trying.
He's not going to get any better. He's not going to get any better by sitting on the bench.
No. And Pookie, I just don't know what to make of him at all. He only wants to score against teams from Edinburgh. So maybe he should have went to Hibs or Hearts. I just don't know. I'm honestly at a loss for words over what's been going on at Celtic this season. I found it very, very difficult to watch Celtic across this season with on and off the field issues that have been going on. And it's been a hard season. And I don't think it's going to get... Well, it's not going to get any better now because we've nothing to look forward to. The only saving grace that I said was at least we don't need to play Sevco. What a consolation prize that is.
Yeah, I think that given the circumstances across town, that was inevitable. Through whatever means, that pairing was always intended to happen. And now, we face the very real possibility that Sevco are going to be playing for the Cup in our own stadium, with Aberdeen as basically the only side, that I would say, watching the game, that they should just steamroll Sevco.
If they play well, are quite good, and Inverness have a decent spirit. But other than that, can you imagine seeing that walking around Celtic Park with a cup? People should sit and think about that as soon as they start going, oh, but you can't say this about this guy. And just think of that. If we go on out today and in May we see that shower walking around Celtic Park with a cup, people should sit and reflect on that for 10 minutes.
I know it's utterly depressing stuff. Snake, thanks so much for calling in, pal. Happy birthday! All right, keep your head up, and
yeah, man.
We'll go forward from here.
Well, I can't even have a bloody drink because I'm sick.
Oh.
So I'm taking medicine. So it's a triple whammy this.
Snake, that's utterly shit news, pal. Take care of yourself, and take care of yourself. Have as good a birthday tomorrow as you possibly can. Happy birthday, and we'll catch up with you soon. All right, pal.
Yeah, man. Thanks very much. Hope you guys are well and look after yourselves.
All right. Cheers, pal. Hello. That's Snake from Slovakia calling in. Good.
I was hoping for a little bit of a pick-me-up usually when he calls, and I'm like, oh man, now I'm right back down again.
I mean, how can we...
I mean, he didn't say anything. He told the truth, and especially ending it on that note, it's like, yeah, that does not... that picture doesn't sit well with me. And we have no... I mean, we collectively, as fans of the team, talking more about the manager and the players, but we don't really have anyone to blame except ourselves. There were really no bad calls. It wasn't.
Well, nothing more than usual. I mean, there's
right.
a certain expectation of shit refereeing. I mean, it's Scotland after all, but and we're Celtic. But all that aside, you're right. It was completely self-inflicted. Now joining us, Richard Parker from the Ottawa CSC. Who's just gotten their Twitter feed up and running this week. So if you're on Twitter, make sure you give them a follow. Richard, thanks so much for calling in, pal.
Hey, cheers, Graham. How you doing, mate?
I'm holding it together as much as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably tell just from listening. We're just trying to find some sort of silver lining. But the challenge now is, without any sort of meaningful football from here until the end of the season, I mean, what is there to look forward to? I mean, granted, yes, I'll watch Celtic kick a ball around, a public park, in the in the middle of a snowstorm. I don't care as long as there's players wearing green and white hoops. I'll watch it. But it's just gutting now, that we've got
the game coming up at Tynecastle, but apart from that, not a lot to look to. And I mean, the frustrating thing is it's the same friggin' mistakes over and over again in the cups, right? Like, you're doing so well in the league, you're keeping clean sheets, and even if you're just winning games narrowly, like, why the hell do you change the team? Why bring in Sammy? What the hell's he done? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get my head around, and to be honest, it's like, it's done. It's done, and it continuously happens over and over again. And there's so much to look at what Neil Lennon has brought Celtic from a positive perspective, but you can't get away from the fact that in these domestic cup competitions, losing 7 out of 12 trophies while Rangers have essentially been dead is just not good enough. And
yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, you'd almost rather have another couple of screw-ups in the league and win the cup games, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, and what baffles me as well, it's getting monotonous now, but why wouldn't you sacrifice some of these league games to bring in a Matthews to get him back, and play his way back into fitness and form? or bring in some of the young team, or if you have to play Samras, play him in some of the league games. But get your strongest 11. Get your most stable 11. In terms of form and fitness. Why wouldn't you save them for the cup ties, considering that's really what we have left to play for? And it is our trophy, and we don't want to give it up. Why would you start experimenting in the cup ties unless you took the opposition lightly? And that's what this performance today reeks of, start to finish.
Yeah. Like the second, yourself, it's an early kickoff here, right? I'm on the bus looking at the team on Twitter, and I was just thinking, oh, for Christ's sakes, like, we're not going to... You just, I think you said earlier, you just kind of had a bad feeling about the game, and Aberdeen had a good support down and everything. They were right up for it, and we just didn't have an answer, and we totally got overrun in the midfield. Like, I've never seen such a piss-weak midfield performance from Celtic in years. Like, it was pathetic.
And I thought, and I threw this out there, and we really haven't touched on this on the show too much just yet, but I thought that we missed Joe Ledley today in a major way. I know a lot of people over the past couple of weeks, especially since he's left, have given him a lot of stick, saying that he never did anything essentially for us. He didn't turn up in a lot of games, but I thought that he was so important to this side in terms of making other players look good. He opened up space. He slowed down the transition, opposing transitions to hand off players to our back line, and we just don't have that at the moment. In addition to the fact that we were outmanned in the midfield, it was. I think that we missed Ledley today, and I think that we're going to continue to miss him, unfortunately. And as a result, I think that we're going to see a lot more of Charlie Mulgrew, and we're going to need to see Charlie Mulgrew in the middle of the park. We can't go out and out with these wingers all the time, especially with essentially two strikers. I mean, if you're going to call Commons a striker, which I think we essentially have to, he's played that supporting striker role the entire season. So if we're going to have Commons and another striker, depending on who Neil Lennon fancies that particular week, and then play two strikers, it's just it just leaves us far too exposed, considering the presence that we have in the middle of the park.
I know. I mean, like, watching that this morning, like, a bunch of us in the club kept shouting, like, why isn't he bringing on Beaton? Like, we've got all these guys, friggin' all the strikers on and everything, and nothing's working. And even towards the end of the game, Lee Griffiths is tracking back into his own half and everything. I mean, what use is he there? 5 foot nothing and built like a matchstick, you know what I mean? Like, we needed to bring on somebody else in central midfield. We had that on the bench, and for whatever reason, he didn't do it. And as soon as they got that equaliser, I just thought, there's not another goal in this team. Like, there was no guile, there was no creativity at all. And it was just a friggin' nightmare. But I think you're right about Ledley, though. Like, I had a feeling a lot of people wouldn't realise just how much you would miss him until he was gone. And, I'm certainly going to miss that guy.
Yeah, and I've been one of Samaras's biggest detractors. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, fair play to him. He had a bit of a renaissance in his career last season, playing a bit of a different role, and I think that that's really where he's best suited. That's where you see him play for the Greek national team. When we try and slide him in a central role, he's so flat-footed that any sort of tempo that we have and the ball comes to him, he's immediately going to be dispossessed. And if he does try and drop back a bit further deep and bring the ball up himself, his head's always down, and he just takes the ball for a run, and typically he runs into one or more of the opposing sides and gets dispossessed that way. I mean, I have my own feelings on this, but when does Neil Lennon wake up and say, right, we got to go forward, and it can't include Georgios Samaras? I don't know if that point is ever going to be reached. I thought by this point we would have reached that point.
But Sammy's so frustrating, right? Because he has the quality, but the trouble is he only produces it once in every dozen games or something, if that. And from what I remember this season, he was pretty good in the Champions League qualifiers, and then he just the whole team wasn't great in the Champions League, and he's done nothing I can remember in the league. I can't remember him having a great game once, and especially when I'm not wanting to sign a contract, like. Why the hell are you keeping him? And he's probably on a decent wage as well, right?
Yeah. He's
why keep him and send out a Tajic? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's not really much rhyme or reason to it. I think that my theory on this repeating what I was talking about earlier, I think that Neil Lennon feels as though he is constantly under the gun, and he doesn't have time to try and sort of bleed in these younger players if they're not going to be ready and come in and make a huge impact all of a sudden.
The thing is, though, like, without a credible rival in the league, when would you ever get a better chance?
Well,
like, why? There was one of the guys at the Celtic club here said that, like, what you should do is take one or two young guys and say, all right, you know what, for the next, like, 5 or 6 games, you're playing no matter what, and let them make their mistakes and let them grow. And we're just not doing it enough, man. And, like, we built this amazing facility, invested millions in it, so they say, and it's not paying dividends because we're not bleeding them in properly.
No, I agree.
There's no use loading them out. Like, what good is that to us? I mean, they're getting games, sure, but it's totally different playing at Shrewsbury. Even if you're scoring goals every week, what expectation is there? You don't have 60,000 people breathing down your neck expecting you to score. It's a totally different monster.
Yeah, and the style of play is certainly going to be different as well. I mean, if we have a certain way that we're trying to go out and we're trying to play, and obviously it's going to be attacking, it's going to be possession-based, fullbacks pushing up the park, and providing us width from that perspective. Who knows how Shrewsbury's going out there? I mean, to your point, he's getting games, but when he comes back, is he going to be any more suited to step right into the side? And that's the disconnect. And I'm as frustrated as you in terms of, we are investing a ton of money in the Lennoxtown. We already have, and we continue to. But for what? We should be doing better than, it looks like we have a fantastic player in process with Fisher. I have high expectations for him. But other than that, I mean, you go back to James Forrest.
Yeah, he was the last one. Henderson looks good too. I mean, he's really young. I think he's only like 17, 18 years old or something. But I mean, he every friendly he played, he looked like a brilliant wee player. So a guy like that, when the midfield's not playing well, all right, wee man, here's the next few games, show us what you can do.
And let us,
he would do all right.
And let us see what we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't have that opportunity just now, and it's frustrating.
Like I say, you're never going to get a better opportunity because those bastards are going to be back before you know it. And, all the help they need to compete with us and stay up the top, and then all of a sudden, losing a league game all of a sudden actually matters.
Right.
Because you're not guaranteed to win. They come a few years from now.
Right.
There was a buddy of mine texted me this morning, though, and he was of the opinion that the one silver lining from today was that at least Sevco won't get a big cash injection from playing us in a cup game.
Well, that's true, and I know a lot of people, just didn't want to have that spectacle. And to your point, I mean, we have nothing to gain by playing against Sevco. It's all going to go to them. It's going to be a cash injection. It's all of a sudden going to be the statement of relevancy. You know how the papers are going to perceive it. It's the old firm, inverted commas, back again, and we do get to avoid that. But the prospect of watching them play in a cup final at Celtic Park is just it makes me sick.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think I think they're, in terms of what level they're at, I still think they're pretty far behind in Aberdeen or something. I think Aberdeen could see them off. Certainly if they played like they did today, but I mean, you would just worry about the state of Glasgow though if we ended up with a friggin' Old Firm game. I mean, I was home in May there for that under-17s game or whatever. I've never been so scared in my friggin' life.
Well, and the troubling aspect of that is also that given the absence, over these years where you haven't had those games. I mean, we used to play them 4 and sometimes even 7 times in a given season. So, there's the opportunity to blow off steam. Well, now we've gone a period of years where there hasn't been any, and all of that steam has built up. And that first game it's terrifying to think about, in terms of what, to your point, what it means to the city of Glasgow, and to our own supporters as well. Fingers crossed that they hit the wall again, and I think that there's a very real likelihood and possibility that will indeed happen. But you're right. I mean,
I'm losing track with all that. I don't even know what's happening with them now. You you just never know who to believe or who to turn to, and I mean, I don't even know how close they are to dying again.
You know what? I'm a Celtic supporter, and I got my hands full trying to figure out what's going on with Celtic. I don't really have, a whole lot of time to be able to digest, the ins and outs of who the who's in charge of the board and how much money they have and all that. But if past experience teaches us anything, it's that there is a shocking level of ineptitude from start to finish over there, and I don't see that. I don't see that ending. But be that as it may, we still do need to plan as if they're going to be back, so that when and if, hopefully it doesn't, but when and if they do return in the next couple of years, we're in the best possible situation to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I
think the main thing for us, one of the lads at the club here always says this: if we need to qualify for the Champions League for the next 5 or 6 seasons consecutively, and then they will never get within a hair's breadth of us for years. They won't be able to touch us. Well, but we got to, like you said earlier about value, you got to invest that money wisely. You can't go spending. How much money spent was on the bench today?
$7.3 million.
Yeah, and that's in EPL, that's pocket change, but for us that's a ton of money.
That doesn't even include wages as well. That's just what we paid for the players.
Yes, and that's the biggest chunk of it, probably, right? It's the bloody wages.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so we gotta like people talk about our amazing scouting and all that. We've obviously got talent there, but I don't think they did too well this summer. Certainly, going by Lennon's selection policy, they can't be up to much, right? Bookie's the only one that's really got a run of games, and he didn't look too good.
And it seems as though Lennon doesn't, as sort of he's cooled to Pookie over the past several weeks. You haven't seen him get the run out or get the starts. All of a sudden. Lennon seems to prefer Stokes, as we saw today. Now we have Griffiths coming into the side, and who knows what's going to transpire to that. I think that this window for us was an opportunity to address issues that we were lacking with, and I think the summer was the time when we needed to start. Listen, in my ideal world, you have to look at what you have right now. Richard, let me get your thoughts on this, but let me explain what my thinking is on this. In the ideal world, okay, if I'm running Celtic, I'm going to look at the players that I have right now, and I'm going to pick out the players that are most likely to be leaving soon. That we're going to get a bid that's going to come in, and we just can't resist it, and they're going to be gone, right? So I'm going to highlight those players. So given that criteria, we have Virgil van Dijk right now, who it's going to be everything we can do to keep him in the summer, in my opinion. We also have Fraser Forster, who is obviously trying to get on that plane to Brazil by any means possible, and he's done himself a great service in this run of games, not including today. It's going to be incredibly difficult to keep him. We have Sam Russ leaving, who whatever type of player he is, I think it's best for all sides to move on. But you identify these players and you try and replace them before they actually leave. Get somebody in the conveyor belt so that when and if that bid does come in, and maybe we're in the midst of Champions League qualifiers, that player can step in, and we're not going to miss a beat. At the moment, who do we have as cover for center half? Charlie Mulgrew? If Charlie Mulgrew goes out injured, and it seems as though he was injured based on his lack of inclusion today. If Charlie Mulgrew gets injured, who's our cover then, right here and now? Michael Lustig is still out. So
I would add him to your list as well, by the way, of players that could go.
Absolutely.
He's top quality.
Absolutely. I think that we have plenty of cover at right back. I just don't think we have any cover at center half. I don't think we have any cover at goalkeeper. And these are the type of players that I would start looking at bringing in. And we did nothing in this January window to address that. So we're going to be left in a position in the summertime where we're going to have bids coming in left, right, and center for perhaps F.A. Ambrose, certainly Virgil van Dijk, certainly Fraser Forster, where they're going to be gone, and they're going to be huge misses in the midst of Champions League qualifiers. I don't care who we're going up against. We had enough trouble with Elfsborg. So I don't care who it is that we're going up against. We need to address that proactively. But bare minimum, what we needed to do in this January window was address where we were weakest, and that's at the position of striker, somebody up top that can finish. And we bought Lee Griffiths. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I still think Lee Griffiths might surprise a few people. We'll wait and see. But the thing is, you and I are on a podcast here. We've never worked in football. I don't know if you have. Certainly, I never have.
No.
We know that. Don't they know that? That you know what? You've got a great goalie here as a potential England call-up. So he's probably going to leave, and they should have known 2 years ago that he was probably going to leave in 2 years, right? So why aren't they scouting somebody? Maybe they are. I don't know. But Virgil van Dijk, the first look at him, I knew he was too friggin' good for the Scottish League, but that guy is going to play at the highest bloody level.
No question.
Within a couple of years, I'm sure, and I think we can get more money for him than we got for Wanyama.
Absolutely. I say we start the bidding at 12 million. What we got with Wanyama, and I think that we'd have a bidding war from many clubs, not even including England. I mean, he's a continental player. He can slide into a lot of these European sides, and with that, there's going to be loads of bids coming in. He's gonna break transfer records. And it's going to be a huge miss for us. I mean, considering what he has contributed to this side this season, we need to replace him. And the sooner the better. We missed the opportunity in the January window. So now it's inevitable that in the summer, Peter Lowell wants to go on and on about buying an £8 million player. I don't want an £8 million player. I want 2 or 3 $3 to $4 million players that provide good value, that have demonstrated results in the Austrian league. There's several strikers in the Austrian league just now that are scoring goals like mad that would come to Scotland and in my opinion, slide right in and be successful. Same thing with these strikers playing in Holland. We don't need to go to the Bundesliga or Serie A or La Liga or England. Stay the hell away from England. You want to talk about overpriced trash? Please.
Yeah.
Don't go to England.
I couldn't help but laugh. A lot of fans thought we were going to go for Stephen Fletcher.
Oh, God.
And I thought never in a million years would we sign him. Because like you say, with the value, right, you buy a 20, I think he's about my age, I think he's 27 or something. You buy him, presumably on at least 40-something a week. He would be our highest paid player by quite some amount. What sell-on value are you going to get from him?
None.
The
chance we had
set the header on fire either.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think that he would have raised the level, but not to the level that would justify value, as Peter Lowell describes it. And I think that our window to buy him was 5 years ago, and it no longer exists. I think that we need to look for Gary Hooper type players, that have demonstrated. I mean, we brought Gary Hooper and he scored 22 goals in the championship, which is a pretty good level. And we got him for an absolute steal, 2.2 million. I mean, please. Yeah. But these types of players are out there, and we don't need to continually go to the championship or to Scandinavia and try and buy. A player that scored 10 goals for Elfsborg or Helsinki, pointing out Bangura, or a bench warmer for Schalke, or some guy from the Portuguese second division. Although I have a lot of time for Balde, and I think that there is a player in there. We need to. I
wish we would give him a run of games, Graham. I just wish we'd give him like we did with Pookie. Give him the 10 games. Like his goals, considering he only plays for 5 minutes here and there, he's actually done all right, and he's a friggin' big lad as well. Like, seen the size of the guy.
Yeah.
Like he's massive.
Yeah.
And it did Paul, was it Paul Larkin on your show before said...
Never heard of him.
Like a source of his said, but like, remember we were in the bidding war for Fletcher when he was at Hibs, and it was like a really negligible sum of money that we lost out by. It was like 30 grand or something like that.
I think it might have been £500,000, but I mean, when you're talking but when you're talking about the difference of £500,000, I mean, I think we offered $2.5 million and they wanted $3 million. And that was essentially what saw us miss out on him. And if he would have come to us at that point, I mean, let's talk about hypotheticals. He would have come at a pivotal time. We were trying to go for 4 in a row. And we would have essentially put Sevco, or we would have put Rangers to the sword, kept them out of Europe, drained them of a huge revenue source, and pushed on from there. And then had the sell-on value at that point. He was much younger, and we bought him for less. We could have sold him on to one of these English sides for a tidy profit. That's over.
£8 million that Sunderland spent would have been ours,
and that's over. Yeah, and we missed it. We bought Willow Flood, who ran roughshod over our midfield today.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's like today was just frustrating for that way. I mean, we were just totally outnumbered. Lennon couldn't see it, and it scunners you. Like, I don't know what it's going to take. Like, how many times we have to get our arses handed to us in a cup for them to realise you don't fuck with your team for a big game.
Well, and I mean, there are different issues that are ailing us just now. The board's treatment of the fans, the board's attitude towards transfer policy, and building from a position of strength, which we clearly have not done. And then there's also the tactical element from the coaching staff. I think at the moment, what the board responds to is butts in the seats and how much money they're bringing in. I mean, that's clear given the amount of self flatulation and congratulation that they give themselves, releasing all these financial statements and so on and so forth. And when they start to see the attendance, I mean, I don't think today was a premonition. We've seen it over the past month. The atmosphere is absolutely atrocious, and it has been ever since, the Green Brigade were tossed out. This isn't going to stop. And in fact, it's going to be accelerated. And that's the type of message that this board notices, because
you know what gets me about it all, Graham? Just sorry to interrupt you there, but see, when you talk about like the attendances and that, right? So they close the upper tier. I mean, I was at that Carragandi game. I was home in August too, and they closed. I'm sure they closed a section of the upper stand then as well. And you guys often, the Hill Media often has on like the Kano Foundation and stuff. If we're not going to have anybody there, why aren't we giving like local schools and organizations like that the tickets? Exactly. And at least do it, because you know what, it's not losing money. Like, they're going to come in, they're going to buy a Coke and a pie and all that stuff, and you'll still buy scarves and that at the shop. And
well, I mean, think about the goodwill that you raise with that, and think about these kids that perhaps come from less privileged backgrounds that maybe wouldn't get that opportunity, and then they see that result against Carragandi, and then the Celtic fans for life from that. I mean, that's invaluable.
You know how much it costs to take a family to a game at Celtic Park most weeks? I mean, you're probably looking well over £100 for a couple of adults and a couple of kids.
It's not cheap. Definitely not. Especially when there are options now. You could take your kids to the cinema. You could take your kids, you have all sorts of options. And if you're dealing with the sort of issues that the support are dealing with now, being vilified for singing songs, not being able to enter the ground with a Nelson Mandela scarf, when you have options, you're going to take those options. And the board need to wake up and stop taking the support for granted.
I think they do, and I mean, you're seeing they're still going to get enough numbers in probably, but I don't have the exact statistics, but I'm sure season tickets must have declined every season for the last few years. Yep. Like, I don't know if I could be bothered going if I was. I mean, I say that, I know I probably would, but I mean, it's just like you say, with the abuse and harassment from the police and everything, like, who's got time for that? Like, I'm amazed the Green Brigade put up with it as long as they did.
Well, for the same reasons why you and I would. They love the club, and the club take advantage of it, and it's disgraceful. But we'll keep lifting up our voices and expressing ourselves, and
absolutely.
Hopefully things change, pal. But thank you so much for calling in, and give us
cheers.
Give us a wee punt for the Ottawa CSC on Twitter, and tell us a little bit about your club.
For sure. Yep. Our Twitter handle is just at Ottawa CSC. We meet in the James Street pub in central Ottawa. We've got we're quite a small wee club. We've got about 16, 17 members. The attendances are pretty low this time of year because it's like minus 20 outside. But but we're a good wee club, and like me and my roommate are both members. We organise we've always done quiz nights 4 times a year, so we took over that this year, and we do it to raise money for the MS Society, and
good stuff.
We raise money for we always give to the Ottawa Mission at Christmas time and that for Christmas dinners. So we try and do the charity thing and kind of keep the brand of Celtic going.
Great stuff.
And thanks for plugging the club on Twitter, by the way, Graham. Yeah, I've already met a couple of guys on there that haven't been in the club in a while, so I've been hustling them.
Absolutely, pal. Yeah, and hopefully it spurs you on, and anything we can do to get the message out there, just let us know.
For sure. No, but keep up the good work, though, Graham. I love your show, and I'll call you back again soon.
Cheers, mate. Hail, hail.
All right, cheers, Graham. Hail, hail.
That's Richard Parker from the Ottawa CSC calling in. See if we can get Yampy on. I know that he's got a particular opinion, or several, I'm sure. What do you think, Rev?
I can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
Love a bit of Yampy. Still no positivity, Rev.
For me, I mean, what's there really?
I'm just talking about generally. I mean, how can we spruce this up? I mean, it's always at least we have the cup to look forward to now.
Right.
Well, at least we have the league to look for. Well, at least we have, what do we have to look forward to?
I think that's exactly why everyone's, like this today. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just a regular league game that we got smashed or just embarrassed, whatever. We still have other stuff to look forward to. Or if we lost even in the semifinal, you know what I mean, towards the end of the season. Well, there's only a couple games left, whatever. It sucks we lost, whatever. But since we have the whole second half of the season basically, to go, and there's nothing specific to look forward to. We can hopefully get some young guys in, maybe, off the top of my head, I don't know what the rest of the season looks like, especially we have the split coming. So, maybe we can get, maybe like a 5-0 game somewhere and hope that happens. But really, there's nothing that we can look forward to specifically and focus on and say, yes, all right, we got this upcoming. No marquee fixture or anything like that. So
fucking depressing. Now joining us from South Jersey, it is everybody's favorite. Let's not kid ourselves. It's Yompy. Hey, brother. Thanks for calling in.
What's going on, fellas?
We're just telling it like it is. Essentially, I mean, I don't know what other way to make it. Now, I've laid the blame for today's result squarely on Neil Lennon. I don't think that you can necessarily blame this on the board and certainly our transfer activity. I think that our transfer activity was shambolic. There was nothing that was forward-looking or strategic in any way. It was all, who can we get for cheap and, that we can get a profit for in the future, not in terms of, okay, what pieces are we missing and where do we need to fill gaps, and let's go out and address that. But given that being the case, what we saw today, we had enough in this team to at least get a result against Aberdeen, and we didn't. And that comes down to Neil Lennon. Your thoughts?
I think, first of all, you might be a little too naive to sit there and say that we can't blame anything on the board.
Tell me why.
Well, I could go a couple different ways with it. You'd start with, like, Joe Ledley. We didn't really need to sell him on right away, and kind of lacking a little bit in the midfield today.
Clearly.
Would have been nice to have him out there. There was no need to rush him on. He would have been gone in the summertime. But God forbid they didn't make any money off of moving him. They wouldn't have profited in any way. So
Well, and I think that he was a much more vital piece for us than Samaras. And we said this last month. If I had my druthers, I'd get rid of Samaras and keep trying with Ledley, because I think that he'd have a far more valuable role for us in the future. Aside from the fact that he's younger, I think that he just fulfills a more vital role. And we got it ass backwards, as this board basically has for the entire season.
Well, think about it this way: there's nothing going on in the attack on this team. Like I said, it's like a old man fucking gumming a frozen Snickers, this attack. It's as toothless as that.
There's a visual.
So if Samaras went, in the January transfer window, who the fuck cares? Not like he's fucking mailed it in since we were out of Europe.
It's clear.
But Ledley, you still have experience there in the midfield, still producing. He's still into it. He was still locked in. So why not fucking keep him around while you're transitioning new guys like Johansson there, like Beaton? So you're not losing that fucking 3.5 years of experience and not just fucking pissing that out the window.
Well, and I made the point last month that it's not like these teams are going to hand us the Scottish Cup. Okay, yeah, we won the league, so we don't need to do anything in the transfer window. Bullshit. And today, this is the reason why I bitch. People are, oh, you're negative and you always moan. No, this is the reason why I bitch, because I'm scared of a day like today happening, and it happened.
Yep, and it's so if you sit there and say like the PLC, the board, Lowell, totally blame this, I'm fucking calling shenanigans. That's bullshit. The atmosphere at the fucking Celtic Park today was gash. 30,000, barely 30,000 for the attendance queens checking in. Barely 30,000. The whole upper deck closed off. Outsung the entire fucking game.
It sounded like an Aberdeen home game.
The entire game talking about taking ferries and you're in the wrong fucking country and this now. All the stuff that the Offensive Behavior Football Act was supposed to cure, but the fucking cops can't hear that because they're only listening for Irish songs. That whole fucking atmosphere of being criminalized by the board, so we don't have a section that actually is actively countering that kind of nonsense for 90 plus minutes by singing and fucking lateral movement and everything else. Yes, I blame that on the fucking board too.
Well,
but that's about where it begins and ends.
I had more expectations, for the crowd today. I thought that there would be a bigger turnout, especially on the heels of the abuse that Neil Lennon got last week. I think that would have fortified the support. And, a lot of Aberdeen supporters on Twitter and elsewhere have been very vocal and sometimes inappropriate. We heard chants today of "you're in the wrong fucking country" from the Aberdeen supporters. So for all these people that, speaking of naive, if you just want to, explain away the behavior from last weekend and say that, Aberdeen supporters aren't sectarian at all, you might want to watch the game again and listen in to some of the banter from the Aberdeen supporters, singing songs about Jimmy Savile, towards the Celtics support, noising up Neil Lennon after he took abuse. Right. Yeah.
Remember everybody on Twitter last week that was saying, "Oh, you're wrong. You weren't there. Yada yada yada. It's not anti-Irish racism." Blah blah blah. What was it today?
Yeah, exactly. I want to hear the explanation from there.
Fucking hearing something else come through my speakers.
Yeah.
So I must be on fucking Mars here. I must be a fucking moron, okay? Because that sure sounded like anti-Irish racism that I fucking heard. The cops couldn't hear it. That were probably about 50 feet away from the shit, but I could hear it through my speakers.
It's just a bit of banter.
Just banter, fuck it. It's only when they want to actively police songs like Roll of Honor, then that becomes an issue.
Right.
But if you want to sing about people going back to Ireland, your own fucking country, you're not Scottish, you're not this, you're that, you're pedos, da-da-da-da-da, we don't acknowledge any of that. That's all fair game. Am I right in that?
No, I'm with you. I don't buy into this sort of explaining it away or saying, well, it's just the West of Scotland thing. Oh, and let's blame the media. The media is responsible for Aberdeen supporters singing songs. I'll repeat what I said last weekend. The media can say all they want. They can vilify Neil Lennon all they want. They can insinuate the reasons why Neil Lennon gets abuse. It's up to the individual to take that information and make a decision for themselves as to right and wrong. And if you make a decision that it's okay to engage in bigoted and sectarian actions, singing, tweets, etc., I'm sorry, you're a bigot. That's not the media's fault. You made the decision.
So kudos to Peter Lawwell. Kudos to the board. You've killed the goose that laid the golden egg. The fucking place is dead. It is dead. Unless you're a visiting support that can come here and just noise everything up. The home crowd, you're a fucking pin drop in there. Okay?
Well, you know what? Peter Lawwell and Ronnie Hawthorne now, this is a product of them deciding who is and is not wanted. And this was the exact verbiage that was shared at the Celtic Trust meeting this past Wednesday. Talking about their response to certain folks who would sing a song like Roll of Honor, which, let's be honest, there's nothing sectarian about it. And there's certainly nothing that would exceed the songs that are regularly sung by many clubs in Scotland and never even mentioned. So, but their response to that is those types of people are not wanted at Celtic. I mean, think about how wrong that is. Peter Lawwell or Ronnie Hawthorne can decide that somebody that supported Celtic their entire life is all of a sudden not wanted because they sung a song. Right now, there's a Celtic supporter that is being held in remand for the next 4 weeks and potentially even longer than that. The trial date is on February 17th for singing Roll of Honor. So they're locked up for singing a song.
What's the deal with the, I saw that where it's like you can go on like iTunes or something and it's for Roll of Honor. You can like, it's like it costs 99 cents or whatever the heck it is. And you like buy the song. I don't know if you saw it. Was it for like Fans Against Criminalization? I think it was.
Exactly. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's Fans Against. So for more information on that, go to fansagainstcriminalization.blogspot.com. And what they're doing over this next coming week, from February the 9th until the 15th, by purchasing the Irish Brigade version of Roll of Honor, what they're trying to do is raise awareness of the fact that there's nothing sectarian about the song, raise it hopefully into the top 40 in the music charts to give it that additional visibility and to give the cause additional visibility. I think I looked at some statistics. I think only, like if you get like 2,000 or 3,000 downloads, essentially that'll get you into the top 40. I don't think it takes a lot, so by doing that, by going on, and I think it's 99 cents here or whatever it is, 79p or whatever the hell it is, with iTunes in the UK, the more people we can get that can download this, the more visibility we can give to it, the more we can get people talking about the effort and the fact that there's nothing sectarian about this. And to your point, Yampi, it's criminalizing a certain element of the support who, as Jeanette Finley pointed out in the Celtic Trust meeting, are only interested in, or I should say, have a certain passion for a united Ireland, which seems to be the sole issue that the Celtic board, as well as the downtractors or the naysayers, have. You could talk about anything else political you want. You could talk about a united. You could talk about independence for Scotland.
Sure,
you can have the British military roll out howitzer guns,
submarines reenacting the fucking Battle of the Falklands.
You can have people. Jesus, I wouldn't put it past them. If Ibrox wasn't falling down, I think they probably make that happen. You have you have paratroopers scaling down off of ropes from the roof, which, again, given the state of Ibrox just now, is probably not the safest thing. You have British troops making, doing the bouncy, singing, sectarian songs. That all is fine. It's all on YouTube. If you have eyes and ears, you can see it and hear it. That all is fine. But if you have a particular interest in the issue of a united Ireland, you are not wanted, inverted commas, which is, it's mind-blowing. And the lack of turnout and the lack of atmosphere that we saw, not just today, but over the past several weeks, is a product of that. So, Yampi, let me ask you, what can this board possibly do to endear themselves back with the supporters? I mean, it's gotten so toxic that, they've really left themselves without many options other than continue on with this policy and continue to alienate supporters.
I mean, is there really how can you, and I've said it before, how can you trust the board? They every time they sit there and supposed to give you a little bit of an olive branch. Oh, we'll talk about safe standing, but they never do anything. And I feel like it's just like Groundhog Day for me. There's nothing really they can do. They threw out fucking people without cause. They've criminalized their own supporters, had doors kicked in. They fucking had them kettled, turned over information to the cops. How many times do you kick me in the mouth? How many times do you kick me in the teeth before I shut my fucking mouth? I don't sit there and it's like I watch what's going on. I don't think I've ever really seen anything like that, where a controlling body is so actively working against the most passionate portion of their support. It's really fucking unfathomable to me.
Well, and in the most subjective of terms, don't sing those songs. Which songs? Oh, you know the ones.
I mean, do you sit there and say, like, oh, it's all good? I mean, Lowell comes to you now and say, hey, my bad, I just fucking had you arrested, ruined your job prospects and everything else, got you fired from your job because you had a criminal conviction. But my bad.
Hey,
I say, oh, that's okay.
Come on back. Come on back into the stadium. Sure, you can have your section back. No problem.
Yeah, do I sit there and say, you know what? I think he's a good guy. He means good this time. No, man. Eventually, you don't. There's a point where you just sit there and say, fuck it, Until these guys go, it's got to be a problem. It's got to be a problem. You can't sit there and trust someone that's bullshitted you so many times. What about the fool me once thing? It's not, I'm not going to sit there. If I'm one of the Green Brigade or anything like that, and I had all this shit because I sung a fucking song.
Or you made a banner.
Yeah, or, oh no, not a fucking banner. I spent hours and hours for years painting banners and doing whatever to support this club, and this fucking dodo comes in there and has me arrested? After all this effort I would have had for supporting a club, I'd be like, go fuck yourself, dude. I don't want your fucking olive branch. I don't want to shake your fucking hand. I want you out, dude. Get out of my fucking face.
Well, especially in light of
my fucking club is what you're doing, dude.
and especially in light of the fact that the club and Lawwell, Hawthorne et al. Had a key role in writing this piece of legislation, and it's documented. You can go on to the Scottish government sites that have the minutes of the meetings where this legislation was drafted, and it clearly states that there was significant input from Celtic in terms of the direction of this legislation. And then the club comes out and says, well, we're against the Offensive Behavior Act. How the fuck can you be against it? You wrote it!
Wrote it. They're like they're fucking playing.
You think we're stupid?
Like they don't have goddamn access to a computer or the internet or something. Can't click on a fucking hyperlink.
They think we are stupid. It's combined with. I mean, it's insulting. It's a combination of them treating us as if we are complete and utter morons, with the taking advantage of the fact that no matter what, we can treat them as shittily as we want. They're going to be back no matter what. What you pointed out. If I'm a Green Brigade member and I'm getting arrested, I'm getting my door chapped, I'm getting, all sorts of hassle just for going and supporting my club and singing a song, why would I continue to do that? I think it's to their credit that they love the club so much that they persisted through that. And they fought to try and reinstate their rights, which I don't think anybody can have an argument about somebody having the right to sing a song that some shithead cop thinks is offensive and can't back up, with any sort of logic as to why they'd be arresting them. I just, it's to their credit that they did fight through that. And they continue to fight. And I think that, the meetings like the Celtic Trust are having it's a positive step. It's a way for us to get united in terms of, what the issues are. Get more visibility in terms of what the club is actually doing, because it's clear, to your point, that we really can't trust this board. We can't take them at their word when they tell us certain things are certain ways, because clearly, and it's been proven, that they've lied. They've lied to the Green Brigade. They've lied to the supporters, and it's depressing.
I mean, they've taken something that is so good and just completely fucking shattered it, and it's like, why? Why? Because of songs?
Because they made a banner. Because you might have to stand up for the people that love your club so much. I don't get it. What is the fucking point, Mr. Lawwell? What is the point of all of this? We also got information that Peter Lawwell has and is continuing to hold meetings with certain Celtic bloggers and podcasts who are favorable to his message to try and work on strategy prior to these Celtic Trust meetings, to try and sort of like negate any sort of process. Yes, that is correct. Every dictator needs their Baghdad Bob. This was released at the Celtic Trust meeting. Peter Lawwell is meeting with Celtic bloggers to try and hash out strategy on how they can circumvent the issues that are raised in the Celtic Trust. So when you see these blogs that come out the day after our supporters are harassed and something negative happens, and all of a sudden you see a blog that is talking about Sevco and how bad things are at Sevco, or talking about how great our balance sheet is, just stop and think about it for a second or two. There's purpose behind the wag the dog, man. They don't want people focusing on the real issue, so we instead focus on Peter's jokes, and we focus on, it's just another day. What are they doing over at Ibrox? It's like, that's fine. I'm the first person I'd love to see them become third Rangers or whatever the fuck they are. But fact of the matter is that's not really centrally important to being a Celtic supporter. Making sure that all our supporters are, treated properly. That should be where the theme of this story, the focus of everybody that's a Celtic supporter should be. And he's just sown these wonderful seeds of dissension through his little, we'll put out different stories just so nobody keeps talking about things like fans being criminalized and whatnot. And that's really, it's fucking shady.
It's shady. And when you sit there and say, can we ever get back to a point where we're cool, we're all Celtic sports, not just me. I'm just talking about like Green Brigade, everybody else, where everybody's cool with Peter Lowell. That's not going to happen. This guy's done too much damage. He's got to go. The man's got to go.
Yeah, I think that this issue, this issue with regards to how the board treats the support in general, as it gets more visibility, as more people become aware of not just what happened with the Green Brigade, and how they were treated and how they were vilified with no recourse and no proof. It also affects our away supporters. You turn up to an away ground, as was the case in Dundee last year, and almost immediately after the game, without any sort of facts being brought to light, the club condemns the away supporters.
Right.
And it turns out after the fact that it wasn't even close to anything at all, and certainly not what they described.
The board, and Peter Lowell in particular, are the last people that should be leading the charge in a rational world. Now, if you live in fucking bizarro world, Peter Lowell is leading the charge against his own fucking supporters. And apparently that's where we're at right now, because he's the first one out there, I'm ashamed of it, and we will find out who did it. It's like, why don't you wait and see all the facts that actually come out, and then talk about what might happen, instead of fucking taking tickets away from your supporters, instead of casting them to the wind all over Celtic Park until you can find it out. It's like the facts almost become secondary. It's like, let's react and look great, and then afterwards, if anything got fucked up, we'll figure it out then.
Well, I think on an elemental level, Peter Lowell wants to change the image and the essentially the context and the color of the support to his own liking. And, you're either with him or you're not. And if you're not, you're gone. And if that includes jailing you, banning you from the park, whatever the case is, then so be it.
He needs to go fucking find a hobby. That cocksucker needs to find a hobby. He seriously does. Like, go race cars or something. Buy another heated driveway or a mansion, or just get the fuck out, man. Seriously. If you're not going to look out for all of your supporters instead of just your preferred segment of supporters, then you're doing a disservice, and get the fuck out.
What do we look forward to now?
This must be the hide under the sheets portion of the program.
Oh God!
I'm not going to sugarcoat it, man. You can kiss my ass.
No, and that's why we love you, man. You're saying it like it is. I mean, what do we have to look forward to now? I mean, the summer transfer window. I'm not even really looking forward to that.
When is the qualifiers? June, July? I mean, what's the bill? Oh, wow, we're going to commit £8 million to getting a player. That's great, because, if we lose other players, then, it'll give us some temporary distraction till we get punted from Europe.
I mean, the real impending issue of the summer transfer window is who we're going to lose. Because there's no sort of precedent for optimism in terms of who we're going to bring in.
What the fuck is the point if you're spending? We're going to spend £8 million if you lose a Fraser Forster, if you lose a Virgil van Dijk. What's the point?
We'll get $20 million for Forster and Van Dijk, and then we'll spend $8 million on
No, the board will.
Right.
I won't see a fucking dime of it.
Well,
the board will.
Yeah.
Not the average supporter won't see anything from that. Maybe he'll get another mil, whatever, towards his fucking pension. The worker there at Celtic Park isn't going to see it. The average, living wage type employee there is not going to see a fucking bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like... I mean,
hey, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom guy, man. I'm just keeping it real here, bro.
No, listen, it's like, I'm with you. I'm trying to make sense of what the rest of the season looks like. I mean, is it going to be... I'm not arguing with anything you're saying. I agree 100%. I'm just saying, next week at St. Johnson, what is it like? Are we going to take bets on whether or not Sammy plays? Like, is that what?
Does it matter at this point? The league wraps up anyway.
But I mean, it's turned into a bit of a joke.
I mean, I sit there and this is the shit that does my head in. I see people on Twitter and they're like, "Oh, what's everybody pissing and moaning about? We still won the league." It's like, what are we pissing and moaning about? You stand the chance of watching Sevco in your fucking park win a fucking trophy, you fucking morons. Are you kidding me? Because you put Sammy out there for 60 minutes to go through the fucking motions, and the only person on the planet that doesn't realize he don't give a fuck anymore is the guy who puts the lineup in?
Oh, God, I'm so depressed.
I mean, what are we talking about here? Griffiths came in there, and you know me, dude. I just, this fucking guy, like, with his whole baggage thing, and I got to root for this Joker, and it's like he comes in 30 minutes, and he showed more life in that, 27 minutes than fucking Sammy did the whole first 63. Why was this guy in the fucking lineup? Why was he starting?
I don't know.
Why was he starting? Come on, man. And I sit there and look at this, and I'm like, this is it's a bit of a fucking mess. And let me qualify this. I'm not saying Lennon out at all.
No,
I'm not saying
you
out.
can't. I mean,
No, absolutely not. But what I'm fucking saying is if you can't criticize this guy over his lineup selection, if you can't criticize this guy over his ability to make adjustments on the fucking fly, if you can't criticize the guy for getting him motivated after he got pelted by the fans of the fucking team he's playing today, and they come out there and they look deader than shit, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck happened. They look flat. That's a fucking problem.
I can't get my head around that. You would think that if anybody would be motivated after what took place, it'd be Neil Lennon, and he'd try and inject that into his players, and he'd try and inject that into the lineup, into the way that we played.
And you give up a goal right before half, say, okay, you know what? This thing is way far from over. You still got at least 45 minutes plus to make this right. 45 minutes plus. And they come out in the second half and just drop another fucking egg again. And lo and behold, they're already behind. And who's killing them? Robson, former Tim Celtic player. Willow Flood. Two guys two cast-offs, rejects. And all of a sudden, they're dominating the midfield. I mean, Bruni looked like he was a fucking gargoyle statue out there. He's heading shit out for corner kicks. He's kicking the ball out for long throw-ins. I mean, he looked like he had the mobility of the first alert lady. I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh, God.
I mean, he was fucking brutal out there today. Brutal. Pookie, how much? They gave this guy a 4-year deal. He couldn't get off the fucking bench. They can't score, but he can't get off the bench. James Forrest can just run in circles and fall down and trip over fucking turf, but Pookie can't get out there at all. So if we can't criticize the manager for this, what can we criticize him for? Stop being a bunch of sensitive tits. The manager did not cover himself in glory today. Get over it.
It's true. It was self-inflicted. I mean, constantly, over and over again, since the death of Rangers, the only team that can beat us in Scotland is us.
Pretty much.
And it happened again today. And it's fucking depressing because it's like this was the last thing that we had to look forward to. And now it's like the atmosphere is shit. It's going to get worse now. The club don't give a shit.
The atmosphere is a fucking dumpster fire, dude. It's all I heard the whole game. You're right. It sounded like an Aberdeen home game. That's all I heard the whole fucking game. Aberdeen singing songs. They were down. They're singing songs. They're up. They're singing songs. None of them should have been legal, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, hearing that loud at Celtic Park, you're in the wrong fucking country. I mean, it's
they
just
pulled almost 4,000 out there, man. You know, hats off to them. Better team won today. Better team won today on the pitch, not on paper, on the pitch. The fans, they showed up. They showed up.
Well, and Neil Lennon needs to take responsibility. And if we're just going to say, "Oh, you can't criticize the manager," I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's absurd. Like, I see people in Lennon we trust. I'm like, you guys that say that are like a bunch of fucking lemmings, man. If the man told you to jump off a bridge, you'd do it. And you know what? You do it willingly, and get what you deserve. You can criticize. That doesn't mean you're a disloyal Celtic supporter. That doesn't mean that you're a hater. It just means that you have objectivity and open fucking eyes and not afraid to keep it real and say what's on your mind. You can criticize the guy and still hope that he does awesome and want to see him succeed. It was a bad day, dude. From pillar to post, it was a bad fucking day.
Hey, you looked good in Paul Larkin's video.
Yeah, I like that, man. That was pretty cool.
It was cool. It was cool. It was good to see you.
That was really neat. I kind of like, I don't know, man. It gives me the heebies. It's like the same thing, like hearing my voice or seeing myself on video. You know, my own worst critic. It's like, whoa.
No, listen, you're perfect for that. We get so much positive feedback when you come on the show because you tell it like it is, and you're passionate, and everybody can feel that. And that's the great thing.
If I didn't love the club, dude, if I didn't give a fuck, I could just sit there and Lennon we trust hashtag da and just be done with it. But I do give a fuck. If I didn't give a fuck, I wouldn't get up at 7 in the morning every time they play on a Saturday or Sunday fucking morning and be rushing around trying to get myself sorted, watching this club paying, we pay to watch Celtic TV, and, it's not like we're getting some fucking handout here. We make a commitment too. We might be thousands of miles away, but we love this fucking club with every ounce of our essence.
And that's why we bitch.
If I didn't give a fuck, I wouldn't say boo about it. But I do. I could be out doing 8 million other things other than talking right now, but this is important enough to me that I feel like that I have to say what's on my mind.
We appreciate you. And for those who are listening in, might not be aware of what we're talking about, theasteriskgears.com. It's Paul Larkin's, obviously pushing on from the book that he's released as well as the audio book, which was phenomenal, and you made a nice contribution for that as well. But Paul's now making a documentary film based on the book that exposes a lot of the cheating that went on during the David Murray regime, the David Murray era at the now dead Rangers. And there's a video that Paul and his team put together, a trailer that is for the documentary. And Yampi had a nice piece in the end. Please check it out, theasteriskgears.com, and you can see it there. And I just loved seeing that and seeing you there on the Art Museum steps, just like Rocky. Also, if you'd like to contribute to the effort, it's just a huge project, and it's very important. Obviously, there's a lot that is required for it: cameras, microphones, staging equipment, all sorts of things. And Paul's trying to fund it himself. And if you'd like to help out, make donations for that, you can become an executive producer of a groundbreaking film documentary. I never would have thought that I would have the opportunity to do that, but we all do. Go to theasteriskgears.com and find out more. You can donate, and there's all sorts of levels that you can donate on. But the important thing, as Paul points out, is don't spend money that you don't have. That's what David Murray did, and we all know what happened there.
Right, and it's a good lesson to be had there that David Murray fucking probably should have took to heart, but he never did because he was a cheating fuck. And that club, with any luck, will end up back where it was, maybe not even 2 years ago, which is right back in administration.
From your lips to God's ears. But also, if you do have the money, please don't think that you don't have to donate. Don't be like our board, okay?
Right.
If you have the money and you can invest, please do so.
Unlike our board, support your fellow Celtic supporters.
No question.
People that live, breathe, and bleed the green and white hoops.
No question about it. And when you see the final product, it's going to be something that you and everybody else who supports Celtic is going to be extremely, extremely proud of. I assure you, some of the stuff that's happening with this project is really, really exciting. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. theasteriskgears.com, and then you can follow them on Twitter as well. Paul and his team at the Asterisk Gears. Obviously, Paul's Paul Larkin 74. Also, Yampi, you pointed out, and I think it's worth mentioning, the Roll of Honor is available this week. Now, make sure that you wait until midnight tonight. From the 9th to the 15th, if you download the Roll of Honor by the Irish Brigade, there's going to be information, including links and all that, you can follow the Celtic Trust on Twitter at the Celtic Trust, as well as the Fans Against Criminalization. They've been instrumental in putting this all together. You can follow them at FAC Kill the Bill. It's an appropriate Twitter handle. So make sure that you do that. Get as many downloads from far and wide as possible, so that we can get this onto the charts and get this discussion moving, so that we can stop with the pantomime vilification of our own supporters. It's depressing and it's disgusting. I'm sick of it. All right,
gentlemen, I'm outie.
We've kicked the shit out of this corpse. I think it's dead.
Yeah, I think so. And I guess, what are you going to do? I guess we need to keep our chins up, I suppose. I don't know.
I got some moonshine left.
Glad you do, bro. I'm just stuck with some cheap-ass second-rate Kentucky bourbon, man.
Ooh, Old Crow?
Nah, it's like heaven hell. Some cheap-ass stuff I was going to use to brine a turkey, and just never kind of came to fruition.
Hey.
So now I'm just stuck with a lot of bourbon.
Well, you got to do something while you're watching the Olympics.
Got to do something while I'm watching the match today, dude. If I see more of that shit. If I see Sammy out there one more time, there won't be much bourbon left, I promise you.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling in. Keep your head up.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. Hail, fellas.
Great stuff. Hail. Thanks, bro. All right, so basically, Rev, the consensus is it's all fucked.
It is all fucked.
Well, at least we have each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there goes that potential Toronto trip.
Yeah,
that would have been nice. That would have been real nice. I was looking forward to that. I was going to try to make that work somehow, some way.
I think we got ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. No, and is that, our own fault where we too figured we got it in the bag and,
Well, we had confidence in the team
right.
and the manager, and they let us down. It happens.
Yeah. Too often,
You're not going to blame me for this shit.
That statistic about, our form in cup runs and stuff was 2 in 9 chances. That's bad.
It's bad without an equal competitor.
Right. Yeah, the only team that can beat us is us, definitely.
I'm going to go drink some moonshine.
I'm going to go take some medicine.
Were you sick?
You know what I mean.
Oh, wait, what? I don't know if I know. I don't know if I want to know what you mean.
The green medicine. The happy medicine.
I know what you mean now. All right, you enjoy your weed, Rev.
I didn't say that.
I know.
All right.
Some things just don't need to be said. Good for you. You know what? You should stand outside Chris Christie's house and just burn down the house. Burning trees out. What do they call the mansion in Jersey? Trump Thump It or something?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I really don't.
They got a goofy. I'll Google it. They got a goofy name for the New Jersey governor's house. It's like Trump Thump It or something. Thrips Whack It. Something like it's crazy up in Trenton. All right, Jersey politics. We're not going there. Rev, thanks for being a man, a real man, coming on, saying your piece, dealing with it. I'm going to be a man, I think.
I mean, this is one of those games you just got to, take it on the chin.
All right, take it easy, Tony Mowbray. I'm not going that far, all right? I'm going to be pissed off for a little bit. I'm going to drink some moonshine and,
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. But, I mean, what else are you going to do, And the other thing that sucked today was, seeing the tweets like, fair play to Aberdeen and their fans. And, it was like an even, everyone was, fair play and all that stuff. No, like,
Fuck
after
them.
What their fans were at the game and the stuff that was coming out of their mouths, I'm not going to wish them well.
No. Fuck them. No. This is another thing I don't understand. This whole, sort of excusing or explaining away the behavior of supporters just because they're from Aberdeen. They for some reason can't be scumbags. They
Right.
very clearly are based on their behavior over the past couple of weeks. So
And I'm sure it's not everybody. I'm not going to say that either. But were they the ones there today singing, or at least the loudest? No. So, I mean, yes, the players were the players. The players beat our players. So
the whole away section was singing it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, fair play to the players. They beat us. But as hoping their fans go on, no, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck them. I hope they beat Sevco, though. Don't
you got to pick. Yeah, seeing whatever the next matchup is going to be, you got to pick the lesser of the two evils. But then the round after that, you hope someone else comes in and
they all suck. Oh God, this is awful. 2 cup finals played at Celtic Park, and we're not playing in either.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
We had the chance to make history, I'm sure, right? Has that ever happened before? I don't even know.
I'm sure it has, but it's not going to happen this time.
Right. That's like getting the Super Bowl in your home stadium and not even making the playoffs.
All right. I'm going to go sit on my kitchen floor and listen to some Chicago and drink moonshine.
What?
It's time. We gotta wrap this up. Rev, thanks for coming on as always. It's great.
Yep.
It's great stuff. Everybody loves you. I don't know.
And I love everybody.
I don't know how you get everybody to hate me and love you. Well played, sir. All right.
On to next week.
Yeah, big matchup.
And the thrilling game against St. Johnston.
Yes, big matchup against St. Johnston. Thanks to Richard from Ottawa for calling in. Thanks to Dr. J. We got some Skype issues per usual, but we'll keep working on them. Thanks to Brendan for calling in, Snake Pliskin, Yampy, of course, and to you, Rev. Thank you as well. And everybody keep your head up. The sky's not falling, but the opinion of the board amongst the Celtic support as a whole is actually falling. So I don't know what to make of it. I'm depressed. Taking us out as always, Shane McGowan of the Pogues. Say goodbye, Rev.
Goodbye.
That's goodbye from me. Go on, keep the faith.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know 15 was not to be on a copping ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And in Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. To their hut, to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favourite bird. Then we raise a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again across the ocean with a hand of opportunity. Trust tickets